Amazing venue for music. It's crazy,
I
right?
saw a
It's
Tom
really
Petty show there. I saw a bunch, yeah.
We're going to go through the next 2 hours, all the concerts we've seen over the course of our
Sounds
lives.
great. Good morning. You're watching Fox and Friends First. On this Thursday morning, I'm Jillian Mealy.
And I am Todd Pyro. Protesters in Columbus, Ohio.
Republican Senator Tim Scott told reporters yesterday he hopes to reintroduce his police reform bill or something similar in the coming weeks. Now to the crisis at the border. Fox News has learned the vice president will visit the Northern Triangle in June as images show cartels using TikTok to recruit American teens to smuggle migrants.
And in just hours, President Biden will kick off a 2-day virtual summit on climate change with world leaders. David Spunt joins us live from Washington with a very busy day ahead. David.
Hi, Todd. Good morning. The Vice President, Kamala Harris, made some news just a few weeks ago when asked when she would physically visit the border. She laughed it off. It made some headlines at the time, and we know at this point she still has no plans to physically visit the border. But as you mentioned, she will be visiting the Northern Triangle countries. That's coming up in June. Those countries consist of El Salvador, Guatemala. Also, she'll be visiting Honduras. We know that Vice President Harris on Monday, April 26 will speak with Guatemala's president to speak about some of the issues facing both countries, the United States and Guatemala, countries where a large chunk of those seeking asylum are coming from. Fox News' Adam Shaw and Aisha Hasni reporting that cartels on the southern border are targeting American teenagers through that app TikTok to encourage them to smuggle people into the United States. In some cases, Todd, they're paying $2,000 or $3,000. Migrants continue to come to the border seeking emergency asylum. The latest numbers we have from Border Patrol, 320 migrants apprehended by Border Patrol agents in just 2 days. Meanwhile, Arizona's Governor Doug Ducey says he's furious about the lack of visits from the administration to Arizona's border towns. Sure, there's a lot of focus on Texas, and Governor Ducey says that's fine, but he wants more light on Arizona's border problems, and he's not alone. He activated the National Guard, and both senators from Arizona, Democrats Mark Kelly and Kristen Sinema, support him.
Not a single member of the administration has paid us a visit here in Yuma or any of Arizona's other border cities. President Biden, you should declare a national emergency.
And in just a few hours, 2 days with a focus on climate at the White House. The president, 8 o'clock this morning, will join world leaders to discuss climate change. A few notable names in attendance: Chinese President Xi Jinping and Russian President Vladimir Putin.
Let's talk about extreme weather now and take a look at this terrifying dash cam video showing a semi-truck losing control and slamming into a snowplow during whiteout conditions in Wisconsin, causing a 22-car pileup, leaving one person dead and several others hurt. Meanwhile, on the East Coast, a rare April shower in New York City, hail slamming parts of the city as storms moved across the Big Apple.
It was loud.
Wow.
President Biden announcing 200 million Americans have received the COVID-19 vaccine, and he's now urging young people to get the shots, as well as calling on every business to give paid time off for their employees to get vaccinated.
No working American should lose a single dollar from their paycheck because they chose to fulfill their patriotic duty of getting vaccinated.
The administration unveiled a tax credit to encourage businesses and nonprofits with under 500 employees to offer that paid leave.
Jeopardy reveals the final round of guest hosts. The show announcing actor LeVar Burton will take on the role this spring. Producers also tapping Fox sportscaster Joe Buck as the show's final guest host. The episodes will reportedly air this summer. A handful of personalities have been filling in since the passing of beloved host Alex Trebek last year. A permanent host has not been announced.
I find this whole thing fascinating, like who the permanent host is going to be.
Yeah? Would you want to?
I would. Guys, I'm here. If you're up at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Make sure your phone is always on, so if they call, you answer it.
My agent, Jillian Mealy.
It is 10 minutes after the hour. A school district warns they might not have enough subs to cover in-person classes as hundreds of teachers stay home. One parent says Zoom learning is unbearable for his 5-year-old daughter. He joins us next.
Did you hear about this? An Idaho news anchor becomes an internet sensation. One tweet propelled him to celebrity status. Hartman here to react. You know, sir, I don't know if you have the answer to this, but I think this is the question that you're wondering, I'm wondering. With California teachers prioritized to get the vaccine, why do so many still have to work from home?
That is the same question that I have and that I believe many parents and others in San Francisco and across California have. What we know at this point is that California made the decision to set aside 10% of our state stockpile of vaccines for teachers and public school employees. And it was announced here in our local school district back on March 26th that at that point, all of the teachers and other employees of the school district who had opted into vaccination had received their vaccine at that point. So at this point, that is the question. Why are so many still working at home? And I don't have an answer to that.
So what happens when there is no substitute teacher? Are you parents, just on your own?
So the way we have it structured right now is a little bit interesting. In my own daughter's case, she gets to go to in-person school Monday and Tuesday for partial days in the morning. On Wednesdays, all of the kids get distance learning, and then Thursday and Friday, she has the option to sit on Zoom at home and watch the other kids. So they've sort of broken up the classrooms to limit the number of kids who are there. And then in the cases where the teacher doesn't want to go in or can't go in due to a medical exemption, they have the kids going into what we've been calling Zoom in a room, where the kids go into the classroom and have the option to sit on their computers in the classroom while an aide or a substitute teacher supervises them and the teacher provides distance instruction.
Unbelievable. What's really going on here?
So I really don't have answers for why so many teachers have been given medical exemptions. Our school district has allowed teachers to provide doctor's notes explaining that they or someone they live with would be at high risk of complications if they were to contract COVID. And the teachers who were able to supply such notes were reviewed. And ultimately, the most recent numbers I have seen were that close to 500 across our district were granted the exemptions to stay teaching by distance learning. We received a mass email yesterday from our school district explaining that they would be not able at this time to anticipate a return for middle or high schoolers due to this lack of in-person teachers.
30 seconds on this final question. Is this serving as a wake-up call to combat the powers of teachers' unions, or, in the alternative, is it just making the teachers' unions stronger?
I would think what it's really a wake-up call for is the need for better education regarding the effectiveness of the vaccines. I think there's a lot of fear amongst the teachers and other employees, and I think we really need to combat that fear with better evidence-based guidance regarding the effectiveness of the vaccines.
Interesting analysis. Alex Hartman, we appreciate you getting up early with us. Thank you so much, sir, and good luck to you and your daughter.
Thank you.
Jillian.
And still to come, a tense moment in the White House briefing room when the president's record on race is questioned.
One of the president's core objectives is addressing racial injustice in this country.
Do you believe it's important to accept his own culpability?
I think I've answered your question. Go ahead.
The full exchange just ahead. Plus, starving for workers. Restaurants are struggling to hire employees, even while dangling bonuses. Our next guest is the managing partner of a restaurant who says people are getting too much money to stay at home. He joins us after the break. Okay, restaurants in the U.S. are starving for workers. Desperate business owners offering signing bonuses, even paying interviewees, but they say workers still aren't biting because they can make more money on unemployment. Managing partner at Ainsley Restaurant and owner of other restaurants in New York, AJ Bontempo, joins me now to weigh in. AJ, thanks for being here. Appreciate it.
Good morning, Jillian. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Okay, so what are people telling you? Why don't they want to come back to work? What's the reason they're giving you?
I'm not even getting to the point where I'm getting an answer of why they're not coming back. I'm having a hard time getting people to show up to an interview for work. It's just the pandemic insurance is a little it's not incentivizing people to come back to work yet.
Is this something you expected to happen after the last year plus that everyone had been through? People have been unemployed for so long. A lot of people anyway. Did you expect this to be the problem you'd be facing?
No, in the beginning, it was a little bit of a struggle just to hope that we survived. And then thankfully we have, and it was as you ramp up business, it's a little disheartening that as business comes back, it's hard to ramp up employees. The service suffers a little bit due to it, and I'm thankful for those who have come back, but it's a constant battle. We're interviewing constantly, trying to get people back to work.
So how many employees would you say you're down? I mean, you're sitting here on national TV saying, "Come work for me, I will pay you," yet you're still down how many employees?
In a perfect world, I'd like to have about 40 more employees.
Wow, that's unbelievable. Let's go ahead and pull up here some graphics, and we can look at the federal unemployment benefits that are extended now through September 6th. Pays $804 a week on unemployment. That's equal to $20 per hour. There are right now 761,000 unfilled food service jobs in the U.S. That's as of February 2021. And New York State restaurant staffing issues. You can see 14% say business conditions will never return to normal. 92% say their current staffing level is lower than before COVID-19, which you're in that group as well. 64% are more than 20% below normal staffing levels. AJ, do you see this getting back to, normal at some point, the normal that you were used to before COVID? And if so, how long do you think that's going to take, and what will that take?
Yes, I do. I believe, we're in New York, and I believe in New York, and I think that it's coming back. It's going to take a little bit of time, maybe another full year before business is really back to where it needs to be. We need people to move back into the city. But, I see it every day. Business is growing. The streets are busier. It's coming back. And as far as employees go, as soon as it gets a little closer to that September, people will start getting back into work. It got to a point where it was easy to get people to come back in. We were getting a good pool of candidates before that last stimulus was passed, and then it dropped back off. It fell off the cliff again as soon as the stimulus passed again, to bringing it to September. So I believe, once this is all over with, business is coming back.
Wow, unbelievable. Well, the restaurant, we just saw photos of your restaurant Ainsley there on the screen. It looks beautiful, so I hope for your sake that you can get people back in a timely manner. Keep us updated on your progress. Love to see where things are in a little bit. AJ Bontempo, thank you.
Jillian.
While former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin was convicted of murdering George Floyd, this is a different case. This is a separate jurisdiction, but people here in Minnesota say it is part of the bigger picture, just as the Attorney General has announced a federal investigation into the Minneapolis Police Department. Todd and Jillian, back to you.
Caroline Shively live for us this morning. Caroline, thank you.
White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki cuts off a reporter asking questions about President Biden's record on systemic racism. It comes after the president described the U.S. as systematically racist following the Chauvin verdict.
He's an architect of multiple federal laws in the 1980s and 90s that disproportionately jailed black people. To what extent does President Biden acknowledge his own role in systemic racism?
One of the president's core objectives is addressing racial injustice in this country, not just through his rhetoric, but through his actions.
Does he believe it's important to accept his own culpability?
I think I've answered your question.
Psaki also declined to say if the president will honor his campaign pledge to release everyone in prison for marijuana.
31 minutes after the hour now, the Biden administration has filed an appeal against a January court order that would force religious doctors and hospitals to perform gender transition procedures. Religious advocates call the move dangerous, including our next guest, CEO of the Christian Medical and Dental Association, Mike Chupp. Mike, thanks for being here. Are you surprised by this appeal by the Biden administration?
No, we are not. We're ready for it. He said in the campaign trail that this was coming, and executive orders led us to believe that probably there was going to be a battle for this on this issue.
Here is the argument from lawyers on your side of the case. This is from Chief Counsel for pro-religious liberty law firm Beckett. Quote, the transgender mandate not only threatens religious doctors and hospitals, it also threatens patients, as there is ample evidence that certain gender transition procedures can be deeply harmful. How dangerous is a move like this, one by the Biden administration, to the general concept of religious liberty?
Well, Todd, I want your viewers to know that as physicians of faith, we represent approximately 20,000 such healthcare professionals. We care for all patients, and we anywhere from the common cold to cancer. If a transgender identifying patient comes to my office, I'm a general surgeon. I've never thought about refusing anybody for care, but we're Hippocratic physicians, first and foremost, for hundreds of years in the United States, and we believe we've taken an oath to do no harm, and there's plenty of medical evidence, and it keeps growing, it seems, by the month, that these transition-affirming treatments, whether surgery or puberty-blocking hormones, that they don't work, and in many cases for children and adolescents, they become permanently sterile and fertile. And so we have an obligation, a duty to care for these patients with compassion, and when we see outcomes that are poor across the world in the literature, we're going to push back, Todd.
Doctor, what happens if you lose?
Well, if we lose at this level, we will continue to appeal. We believe that two federal court judges have ruled in our favor, and we think the First Amendment is in our favor. We think the government should not be getting between us and our patients. We like to look at ourselves as professionals, and we know many people use the term providers as if we were a vending machine. But we are professionals who've taken an oath, as I said, to protect our patients, whether adults or adolescents or children. And so we're going to fight for that. We'll keep fighting all the way to the Supreme Court if that's necessary.
Okay, but let's say, what if you do lose at the Supreme Court? What does this mean for the practice of medicine going forward?
It's going to be difficult. We did a survey of our members just a few years ago and asked them, what would you do about healthcare practice if you were forced to do procedures that you felt were wrong, were ethically wrong? And over 90% said they would significantly modify their practices or quit medicine altogether before going against what they believe is right. It's not good for patients. Doctors of faith are respected throughout this country. People of faith pursue healthcare professionals who believe as they do, who have a worldview as they do. So it's not going to be good for healthcare in the United States.
We certainly can't afford to have fewer doctors than we do right now. Final question to you, Doc. Why? Why do you think the Biden administration is pushing so hard against this?
Well, we're troubled. We're troubled that the Biden administration would go after nuns and religious doctors. I mean, again, it's not a surprise that this is happening. We are prepared for it. I think the Biden administration is misguided, and we are people of science, medical science. We're evidence-based, and we would challenge any of our the big professional associations to sit down at the table with us, and let's go over the evidence without calling one another names or intimidating one another. We will stand on the evidence. We always have, Todd, and we always will.
Dr. Mike Chupp, we appreciate your time this morning. Keep us posted. Thank you, sir. Jillian,
my privilege. Thank you.
Suspect reportedly fires shots at police after a multi-county chase ends in a gunfight in northeast Indiana. A local media station reports the shootout happened after the driver took off during a traffic stop for reckless driving. Nearly an hour later, police were able to stop the car in Kendallville. The suspect has life-threatening injuries. No officers were hurt. Is the Postal Service tracking your social media? Yahoo News obtaining a bulletin revealing the agency's secret internet covert operations program. The document includes screenshots of posts on Facebook, Parler, and other sites, which, if deemed inflammatory, would reportedly be shared with other government agencies. It mentions one alleged Proud Boy by name, as well as identifying details about several others, despite their posts not appearing to contain anything threatening. Fascinating. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo's staff cuts off a reporter asking about the sexual harassment claims against him. Take a listen.
Will you resign from office if she concludes you did violate the sexual harassment laws under the state?
Yeah, let's see what the report says, and then we will take it from there.
It just does.
Okay.
Well, the reporter later tweeted that he'd been intentionally silenced, saying, quote, "I got cut off while trying to follow up on this point." Meanwhile, a hotline set up in the impeachment inquiry into Governor Cuomo has gotten over 200 tips.
Take a look at this. This children's book on race and law enforcement is being called harmful to public safety. New York's Binghamton Police Union saying the book called Something Happened in Our Town has a, quote, blatantly anti-police message and instills distrust in police among kids. The book was read to local elementary school students. It follows two families, one white, one black, following a police shooting. All right, let's lighten it up for a moment. This guy is Idaho News anchor Mark Johnson, becoming an overnight sensation after his station just tweeted his name and bio by mistake. That's all it was. Just all it said was name, Mark Johnson, bio, nothing else. The tweet, of course, catching the eye of the Idaho governor, Brad Little, who wrote a faux campaign statement. My goal is to make Idaho a place for Mark Johnson to choose to live and for the Mark Johnsons who have left to choose to return.
Dictionary.com joining in on the fun, tweeting in part, Johnson, the last name of Mark Johnson. The Boise anchor replying, just wanted to tell everyone thanks for giving Mark Johnson the biggest chuckles I've had in a year. I don't know why I find this story hilarious, but I did. It's
clearly striking a nerve with me. It's just funny for no reason.
Right.
Can we just enjoy something?
We can.
One thing, Mark Johnson.
I'm enjoying this. Thank you, Mark Johnson.
Wouldn't it be funny if Mark Johnson is what brings the country together?
Maybe he will. We'll see. It is 38 minutes after the hour. Athletes planning to kneel at the Olympics may need to think twice. The ban just reinstated coming up.
And a surprise.
These with the very latest. Greg, good morning.
Hey, good morning, folks. Yeah, there's some offensive activity overnight in the Mideast. Missiles were launched from Syria against Israel, landing in the Negev desert. No injuries. The Israeli Patriot missile defenses ramped up. Crucially, though, missiles landed just about 19 miles from Israel's super-secret Dimona nuclear site. There have been calls in the Iranian state media for just such an attack after alleged Israeli attacks on Iranian nuclear facilities. Israel responded with a missile.
Be surprised, although it is very alarming and disturbing, Greg, that there are supposedly fake COVID vaccines on the black market.
Yeah, thankfully, Jillian, we haven't heard a lot about this, but yes, it is a concern for sure. Health officials in Mexico and Poland are now on alert after counterfeit versions of the Pfizer vaccine had been detected in those two countries. 80 people believed to have been taken in Mexico. In one case, what should have been the vaccine was an anti-wrinkle cream. 6 people have been arrested in Mexico, another in Poland. But we got to underscore, guys, in the U.S., some 142 Pfizer million doses have been distributed, 113 administered, 113 million, and 43 million people fully vaccinated. Those are big, big numbers. Keep them coming, U.S. Back to you.
I got one of the Pfizers in this arm right here, so hopefully it's the real thing. Greg Palka, thank you, sir.
Thanks, I got 2 right here.
There it goes. Good for you, sir. It's a parking lot. It's outside. Florida Congressman Brian Mast, an Army veteran, blasting the delay, saying in part preventing a tradition like Rolling to Remember flies in the face of the freedoms that so many have died to protect. Still ahead, Democrats accused of trying to change the rules on recall efforts to prevent people from signing them. Our next guest slamming the move, calling it voter intimidation.